Rule number 78. A relative clause with a verb in the subjunctive can indicate a general characteristic. In the last rule, number 77, we saw how a relative clause with a verb in the subjunctive can show purpose. Amicus mittitur qui locum perspiciat. My friend is sent to examine the place, or who should examine the place. This purpose of sending my friend is expressed by the relative clause here, and the use of the subjunctive verb perspiciat tells us that this examination of the place isn't necessarily a real event. But the subjunctive in a relative clause can also show characteristic, especially in a situation where the antecedent, and that's the word that the quod refers to, see Rule 8 for more on relative clauses, is otherwise unknown. Multa dicunt quae vix intellegam. They say many things which I hardly understand, or which are of the general characteristic that I hardly understand. Note that the multa, many things, are more or less undefined. Often we see relative clauses of characteristic with the phrases sunt qui, there are those who, and quis qui, who is there who, as in sunt qui Pompeium miserentur, there are those who pity Pompey, who are of a sort to pity him. Quis est qui linguam Latinam discere nolit, who is there who would not want to learn Latin? Nolit here is present subjunctive. And nihil video quod timeam, I see nothing which I might fear, or even I see nothing to fear. In all of these examples, the relative clause is not referring to a specific thing, but to the general concept of the thing. The phrase, there are those who say, would be sunt qui dicant, since we don't have specific people in mind, and it's clear that they are being characterized by what they say. The relative clause of characteristic, which uses the subjunctive, differs from a relative clause that takes a verb in the indicative mood. And let's look at the difference between the two. Here's an example with the indicative. Discipula quae diligenter laborat, bene discere potest. The student who is working hard, as a fact, can learn well. This quae clause is stating something that is true of this student, which is why we have the verb in the indicative. But if we put laborat into the subjunctive laboret, we get something more like a student who is the sort of person to work hard can learn well. That is, a student characterized by hard work rather than a student who works hard as a fact. And so rule number 78. A relative clause with a verb in the subjunctive can indicate a general characteristic.